Hello viewers, Sushil here. In our last video we saw how to create the pivot tables, and now in this video we'll learn how to use various options in the pivot table. So as we see from the last video, from this database, from this table of data, this pivot table was created with filters based on the country, flight and gender, the name of the travelers, the ticket count, the sum of the ticket price or rather the ticket price, discount price and the tax. So now let us understand how can we name a pivot table. So if we go to analyze and go to pivot table name, here we can give the name as we require. So I'm naming it as parent. There it is. I have named it. Again, when I click on the analyze button and go for the remaining options, I have option here to change the active field name, which either I can do from here or do from here. So if I go here and double click it, I shall be able to edit this and say tax tax value. So I'm going to say tax value and say enter. There it is. The name of the title changes. Here I'm going to say discount value, discount value, and here I'm going to say ticket or other raw ticket price. Fine. So now if the ticket price is delta, the discount value can be reduced from that and then tax value can be added to that. So how do we do this calculation? So let's go to analyze fields, terms and sets. In this calculated field, in the calculated field we can name it as to cost of ticket. In the formula I can choose is equal to, now evidently the cost of the ticket shall be the ticket cost, that is the ticket price here, or the raw ticket price, enter that field, minus the discount value. I'm going to insert that field, plus the tax value. So this is going to be the cost of the ticket, and when I say OK, there it is. So the cost of the ticket is what we'll say. This is the net cost of the ticket that the passenger will have to bear. In this way, the calculated field can be found out or added as required. In case if someone wants to find out discounted raw ticket value, it will be nothing else but this cell minus the other cell. Fine. So in this way, one can add the calculated fields. One can even go to the calculated fields and edit them. For example, in this case, if I choose to go to the calculated field and choose the cost of the ticket and modify it, say for example, for some reason the tax value is not to be included in this, I can just modify it and say OK. So once the modification is done, the values will be accordingly amended here. Okay, so as and when required, the calculated fields creation can be done and it can be edited as required. Now, let's go to the another option here, say insert slicer. So when someone is requiring slicers in pivot table, either a single pivot table or multiple pivot table can be considered for the slices. So as per the requirement, one can choose the slicers here as per the fields required, and here I'm going to choose country and say flight number. So these two are the slices I'm going to introduce here, and here they are on the screen. So in case if I want to check out the flight A plus B, whatever we have considered to, here are the details of those two flights, and as I have chosen multiple fields, here I can see the filter has been amended for multiple items. The same way I can choose onto the countries, say if I choose India and say America, there it is for the flight which I have chosen and for the countries which I have chosen. This is the database that one can easily summarize, analyze, and as a result can be included into various presentations or demonstrations in meetings. This is how one can use pivot table, and hence, as stated earlier, pivot tables are dynamic and very user friendly as far as their usage is concerned. Once the slicer work is done, I'm going to just delete them and say here I'm going to say analyze, clear, clear filters, and as soon as I clear the filters are gone, and there it is. We are back to the initial stage. And now let me give you demo about the next utility or next option. So if I go to analyze and say insert timeline. Now let me tell you, to use this option insert timeline, the column should have formatting as date. So date format is must for that, and once I choose date and say OK, here comes the date timeline for me. So by dragging this bar, I can choose the months from which I require the data, and as per the requirement I can opt to choose the timeline. So once chosen, here is the timeline, and we can see the dates or the time period that we have considered. So when I say expand the fields, there it is. So the dates are now visible. So May, September, December, July, and all subsequent dates have been chosen from the time span that has been chosen in the timeline here. Let me narrow it a little bit more so that it becomes more precise and easy for understanding. So now I am opting to choose in between these months. Say I only have chosen now August. So now I am seeing the three flights which are belonging to this timeline. So accordingly, the time frame or the timeline can be set, and the data as required can be analyzed or extracted for the given time frame. Now, let us go on to the next option. So I'm going to close this and remove this. Okay. So now let us go on to, we have learned just now how to create the calculated field, how to modify them, how to delete them, how to insert timeline, how to insert slicers, and make different uses of the slicers. One can also introduce slicers by right clicking onto the fields here and say add a slicer. This is very easy and simple for any layman to add slicers. So now we have learned two ways of introducing slicers into the pivot table. Once the pivot table is ready, one can say analyze and introduce pivot charts from here. So the pivot chart will pick up the data from the pivot table and give a diagrammatic or a graphical representation of all details. So a suitable chart can be chosen and it can be formatted and edited as required. So graphical representation as ever is always very easy to understand, and it saves time and efforts of the presenter. Fine. So now we have learned how to introduce pivot chart by using the utility here from Analyze tab. Now let us go on to the next activity, say how to custom names and how to use the representation in terms of percentages. So now I choose this cell wherein the net cost of the ticket has been found out. I right click onto it and I say value field settings. So now instead of sum, I can opt to have a count or average or maximum or minimum as per the requirement, and modify the cells and its contents. The next thing what one can do is go to show values as, and from here the default which was available or was chosen by me earlier was no calculation. Now I can have multiple options from this drop down and select an appropriate one. So now I'm going to choose percentage of column total, and when I say oh, OK, the percentages of the total column values will be displayed here on screen. So you see all this when added will be 100%, otherwise the individual row item will be represented in form of percentage. Now in the meantime I can go to design. I'll show the options already I have shown in the earlier video, a few of them Here now I can go and say switch on, switch off the subtotals. I can opt to have the grand totals on and off for the columns and the rows as per the requirement. Then report layout, wherein I can choose the appropriate report layouts as per the requirement of demonstrations, and so on and so forth. So now I'll go to subtotals and I'm going to switch off the subtotals. Do not show subtotals. So once the subtotals are off, now it becomes much easier to see the percentage of the column value and the contents of each row item against the grand total. As we can opt to have the grand total on and off from here. So I'm saying off the grand totals, and here the grand total has gone off. One can toggle to have it on and off as per the requirement. So this is how one can opt to design in various forms. The design can be opted into various colors and font sizes and etc, etc. Now here, if we go to the pivot table fields, wherein the first area demonstrates or reveals the pivot fields. If you go to the settings, there are various ways of uh, having the layout of the pivot table field values. So if one can choose as per the requirement, and there are various options of having the layouts. So I choose the first one, wherein the field sections and the area sections are stacked. Area sections only can also be used, and there are other options also to choose from. So as per the requirement and as per the convenience, the user can opt to have various choices from the layout and use them as per the requirement. Okay, let me go back to the pivot table, and now let me explain you how to group multiple rows. So there may be cases that a passenger who is going to make the payment wants all his family members to be grouped under one group ID. How to do that? Here it is. So choose the rows one by opting to press the control button here, and once they are done, right click onto it and say group. So just underneath the group option there is ungroup option, so a person can either group multiple rows or ungroup them as per the requirements. So when one says group, here it is, the group one is formed, and under group one the row items remain the same. So if we choose to have them sorted out, first the group items will appear in the first row, and then after that the row items will appear in the subsequent row. Fine, so the row labels are available here and one can choose as per the requirements. Fine. So now let's move on to the next topic. I have explained you how to group it, how to use various options in the field value settings or editing pivot table name, creating pivot chart, inserting slicer, inserting timeline, and making best use of the calculated field creation. Now there are requirements at times wherein a single pivot table needs to be created by using multiple data tables. Let us go on and create one. So now here is a data table which is named as airplane 4, and in the adjacent worksheet there is another data table which is named as table 2. So now let us use these two tables and create a pivot table based on these two data tables. The basic requirement of creating a pivot table from multiple data tables is at least minimum 2 data tables should be available at discretion for creating the pivot table. Second thing is there should be a relationship between the two data tables for creating a common pivot table. Third requirement is there should be at least one column title which should be common between the two data tables. So if you see in this data table airplane 4, we are having these highlighted titles of the column, and in the adjacent one this is the taxi worksheet in which we have got these column headings or titles which are highlighted. And this table is table 2, the earlier name is airplane 4. So now let us create a relationship between the two, which is a prerequisite for creating a pivot table by using multiple data tables. So how to do that? Let us go on to this, say click onto that, go on to go on to the data tab, and in the data tab one can see relationships. Click on to relationships. One can create a new relationship, one can auto detect, edit if at all there is existing relationship. The remaining options which are not active as of now can be used. So now we can create a new one. When a new one is to be created, it asks for the table which needs to be relationship wise linked with each other. So minimum two tables are required. So now we're going to link airplane 4 and table 2 data tables. So let us click airplane here. As we have already seen, there is one title here called ID which is common between both the tables. So I'm going to choose the ID option here. The ID column is chosen. Then I go to the next tab and choose the second data table, and from that ID has been opted as the related column. And now once it is done, when I choose to say OK, and here is the relationship created between the two data tables. One can edit it, deactivate it, or delete it as per the requirement. So once done, now let us move on to a pivot table creation. So as we learned in the earlier video, let us create a pivot table. Say insert pivot table, and in this pivot table, let us say create in a new worksheet, and table range is airplane 4. Say OK, and add this data to the data table model. Say OK, and once it is done, now I see these are the tables, those are created, and in the second choice I have, or in all options I have remaining tables also linked in. So now I'm going to choose the fields from here, say ID, name, and I'm going to choose say ticket price. Okay, so by default the ticket price and sum of ID goes into the values area here, and the row names appear to be here. Now let us go and add from the other table, that is table 2. So here the ID and the taxi fare are the fields. I'm going to say add taxi fare, that goes into the rightmost area here of values, and I'm going to add the ID into the filter section. So there it is. Or rather I'll say let me add the taxi fare into the filter section, and ID by default is there in the column. So here it is. So our pivot table with these two data tables is ready here, and if we choose a proper filter from the taxi fare, we'll be able to sort out the details. So there are various taxi fares applicable to 11 of these names, and the remaining are the blank. So I'm going to remove the blank and say OK. So once done, I'm going to remove the blanks and say OK, and once done, now here it is. Though it says sum of the ID, it is nothing else but the only thing is ID number. So I'm going to say number ID, because the source name and the custom name need to be different. Then only we can change the title. So here it is. I change the title and the number ID appears here. So ID number 22 corresponds to Abhishek, and the sum of the ticket is 642, and if we go and check, we can see that one of the values of the taxi fare apply here. Okay, so this is the way one can use the filters. Apart from removing the blanks, if I opt to retain the blanks and remove the other fields, I'll be able to see taxi fare for the remaining individuals. Let us go the other way around and toggle it. Now I'm going to opt to remove all and retain the blanks. There it is. So these all individuals or these all passengers opted not to travel by taxi after they land, and so their IDs are here. The customer IDs are here and their ticket prices are seen here. The grand total is very much underneath here, and though the grand total here reveals the sum of these, we don't require the sum. We can say value field settings, and in this we can say count and say okay. So if we require the counts, here it is, the grand total is 24 passengers have opted not to travel by taxi. Fine. So this is how one can opt to find out the taxi fare in one way or the other. So if I choose to put the taxi fare into the column field, there it is. Sorry, I chosen wrong field and that's why it has gone there. So if I choose to take the taxi fare into the column field, there it is, and ticket price I just remove it right now. So now I'm going to remove the blanks here and shift on everything else. So there it is. So now I see the taxi fare here is 25. There is no one here for 40. There is one person to pay. Another person is to pay 35. Bob is to pay 35, and that way one can analyze details as to how many passengers have to pay how much of this taxi fare. This way the data table can be used in various ways. This was a very simple example which I tried to give you a demonstration with. There may be very complex situations, and in such complex situations pivot table turns out to be an important tool, and as and when you keep on using the pivot tables with practice, you will be able to efficiently and effectively use the pivot tables. So friends, with this, let me tell you last thing about the pivot table. So if at all this Excel file is you open into office.com online, then you will find all these pivot tables getting updated into that as and when you are ready with this. So once you are ready with your pivot tables and say refresh or refresh all, they'll get refresh all with the recent data table, and that will reflect online on office.com. So that is another useful way of using pivot tables. So multiple users at the same time can use the pivot tables for transmitting data, exchanging views, exchanging knowledge, or exchanging presentations. Friends, with this now we are coming to the closure of this video. I hope you have learned a lot in this, or at least the basics what I tried to explain you. If you want to improvise your skills, you need to practice further on and explore the pivot table utility further on. Please go ahead and do that. If you like this video, don't stay away from expressing your like onto the YouTube channel. Share this video with others who need it, and do not forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. With this, I take your leave. Take care and we'll soon meet. Till then, bye bye.